Well, thank you, everybody, and welcome to Yorktivist Human Rights Film Festival. We're here to discuss the film of Karen Anstee, the lovely Approval Needed. We have the illustrious Hannah Barham-Brown is here to chair the discussion, and we are joined by Ekow and Carly, who Ekow is in the film, and Carly is very important in this discussion. So I will hand over to you, Hannah, and thank you very much.
Thank you. It's always a bit daunting to be called illustrious and then your internet dies. That's never a really good start, is it? So I'm Hannah Barham-Brown. This is great. I'm very excited. I'm one of the deputy leaders of the Women's Equality Party, and I'm also a disability campaigner and activist, alongside being an occasional GP. So I'm really delighted to be talking about this film today because I watched it and I can honestly say I've never watched a film that's made me feel empathetic towards both a traffic warden and a self-checkout. So it's clearly an incredible piece of filmmaking. I wasn't expecting to feel any of those things or to feel quite so upbeat at the end of it. So thank you. Today we've got the wonderful Kaz with us, who created the film, and Ekow, who's in it, as well as Carly, Ekow's partner. So let's just get started. Kaz, tell us a bit about how this film came about and why a traffic warden?
So my first film was quite depressing. It was all about death and loss. And so I was kind of thinking, what am I going to do next? And around the same time, the whole Brexit vote happened. And then everything seemed to escalate and change in the way people treated each other. And I live over the top of shops, so there was a lot of traffic wardens in my neighborhood, and I heard so many people yelling at them, and it became really more and more abusive. And I just felt like it would be interesting to make a film about someone who is kind of reviled by everyone. You know, it's a really interesting thing that even my most right-on lovely friends will just say terrible things. And, you know, and I say, oh, I'm making a film about a traffic warden. Oh, I hope something terrible happens. I hope that, you know, and it was like, and just today I was looking for hashtags to put on an Instagram thing about this. And I put in traffic warden and it just came up, traffic warden, a scum, traffic wardens should die. And every tag was horrible. And so I wanted to try and make a film where you would, hopefully the challenge was to make you empathize with someone that everyone hates. And also to see how everyone gets labeled and you put people in uniforms and they dehumanized and people make judgments without even seeing who they are. And the same is true for policemen and soldiers. And it's a way of taking away the humanity if you put someone in a uniform. And it seems to allow us all to treat people badly. And also just that sense of, with the checkout, that we're dehumanizing humans and humanizing machines and losing control of our humanity and our communication. So it was a challenge to make something that was amusing and uplifting and yet serious, and say all the things that I was angry about.
It's fascinating. I think it's really interesting how, yeah, you did manage to pull all of that together in a very short period of time. And whilst I now feel incredibly bad for traffic wardens and have this urge to go and hug one, I'm not sure I'm ever going to go and hug a self-checkout machine, partly because, you know, I might look a little bit questionable in Sainsbury's. Tell us a little bit about your experience of being involved in this film, because I think as a wheelchair user myself, I can probably count on about one hand the number of depictions I've seen of visibly disabled people where that isn't really part of the narrative at all.
Yeah,
and it was so nice.
To be honest, it was so refreshing to be part of the storyline, to not only be part of something where my disability had nothing to do with the situation. Because, you know, most of the time when you see a disabled character, it's someone who's visibly disabled on TV, it's 9 times out of 10 about their disability or how they need help or some kind of sub story. So the fact that it had nothing to do with the disability was great, but also the fact that she made Karen made my character the hero is something you don't really see in TV and film. So it was like she kind of, I don't know, it's almost like she showed them how to do it. I mean, I've been to a lot of meetings and seminars and stuff, and there's a part of it where people say, oh, we don't know how to have people on set at all. And then there's another part of it where I don't think they will outrightly admit it, but the situation is they don't know how to write about us, forgetting that even though we have disabilities, we're still humans and we still have very human experiences.
Literally.
And it's not like, oh yeah, that disabled person, they must be so nice because they're so grateful. But then again, I have been out minding my own business. Actually, Carly and I have we've been out together, and someone has said to us, "Oh, it's so nice that you get out," and it's just like, well, it's nice that you get out too, I guess. Like, how do I respond to that? So yeah, this film was in an effort to change people's perceptions on race, for example, and disability and job titles. It was perfect. Not only that, it was a very cute story. I really like the way the story starts from start to finish. I really like the way it all unfolds.
I loved it the first time I saw it as well. I was like, oh, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I told my parents that I was going to be in the in this short film, and I think the initial questions was like, "Oh, what's your role? What's your part?" I think they thought I was just going to have like a cameo. I mean, even though my part is very small, but it's usually and I don't want to speak for everyone, but usually on TV when you see a disabled character, they're never especially relevant unless there is a big bad situation that's happening surrounding them, right? So I just find it was just a very good way to it's a very punchy way to just make very succinct statements like, no, your perception on this is wrong, your perception on this is wrong, your perception on this is wrong, you know. Even the idea, I've only just realized this, but even the idea that, you know, Arinda's character and my character have a little romantic chat at the end, it's almost like they found each other. Even that idea is never really promoted enough on TV. I think they call it crossability relationships now. I don't know, but you know, having a character with a disability in a relationship, either with well, I mean, you'll probably see it more likely with one able-bodied character and a disabled character. And even then, even though it's more likely, it's still rare to see, and it's rare to see it in such a neutral playing ground. There wasn't some kind of unspoken power dynamic where the able-bodied person was clearly the one in control because, you know, the other person's disabled. There was a lot of positives in that film, and it's a very short film, but there's a lot of to take away from it. Like,
I think that you're right. There's a huge amount to take away from it, and I think Helen's made a really good comment in the chat of, yeah, when you see disabled people in the media, that we are generally a sob story or inspiration. There's the kind of whole inspiration porn a lot. It's like, oh my God, you're so inspiring today.
It's so yeah. It's just the echo of this kind of comments we get, no pun intended, of the kind of comments we get in real life. Because I don't know, I'll be going around minding my own business. Oh, you use that chair very well.
Oh, you're fast.
Oh, you're fast. Oh, you drive, like Carly uses an electric chair. They'll be like, oh yeah, you drive. Oh, do you have your license? And I get it. Sometimes it comes from maybe a nervousness.
I don't know what to say.
They feel like they have to say something, but you know, that you see that a lot presented on TV, and I feel like it's about time to just have characters who just might happen to be in a wheelchair, might happen to use a walking aid or whatever, who are just normal. I mean, like,
and have a relationship.
I mean, even as a disabled couple, as in we both have disabilities. That's something I definitely have never seen on TV ever. Like, and
there was one.
Oh, there was.
Don't Take My Baby Away with Ruth Medley. And that guy, and he's blind, and she's in a wheelchair.
Right.
But again,
okay.
They're not two wheelchair users.
Yeah, that's the thing. So you might, and that's the other thing as well. I don't want it to be like, oh, this disability is more than this other, but the industry at the moment seems to be working within. What's the easiest thing to do? I mean, well, we won't need to make. I mean, they would have to make for someone with blindness or something. They would have to make adjustments for them, aka creating clear pathways and things like that on set. And I feel like they would be, and they're happy to do that. But if you were to say, oh, there's going to be two people with sight impairments it suddenly becomes a problem. It suddenly becomes unmanageable and unmanageable. Like we've gone up for an audition before together. Well, we went to do the audition separately. They told us to audition together, got penciled, and then they said, oh, we can only pick one of you because
we can't have 2 wheelchair users.
And it was for something that was like portraying a group of friends. And they said, yeah, we can't have 2 wheelchair users. And I was just like, do we not have friends? Are we not, like, does this not technically happen then? Am I just imagining our relationship right now then? Does that, like, it was so bizarre. It was bizarre.
You laugh, but you kind of also want to cry a little bit.
Yeah,
we see this in every angle of society, don't we? It's like we have disabled space on a bus, but there's only space for one wheelchair.
For one. And if you can't transfer, if you happen to, so like even on the bus, the way we get around it is because I can transfer, it's suddenly okay.
Although once you went in front of me.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes I just try and be cheeky with it, but then it makes you think, okay, so, I mean, I don't think we're the only couple in the world who are both in wheelchairs. There's loads more. But if another couple who were faced with that same situation, one of them couldn't transfer, what would they have to do? Stay home? And not go out, not enjoy life like everyone else? How is that fair? Right? So I think it's all about normalizing disability, like not seeing us as special or inspirational, like you said. Just normal people. Like sometimes we're not that great. Sometimes we're just lazy. Sometimes, sometimes people are just people.
I often tell people that sometimes disabled people can be, am I allowed to say a-holes? Can be a-holes too.
We can. And I feel like, sorry, I feel like people who get shocked by you saying that are the people who definitely think disabled people are just those nice people over there who are quiet and grateful just to have whatever they have, And
you should pat them on the head occasionally and tell them they're doing very well.
Yes. Oh wow, it's so great. It's the whole. I can't get over the whole. It's so great to see you out. It's happened on multiple occasions. It's just so bizarre. But then on the flip side, oh, actually, that's a good point. There has been times as well where we've been stopped and people want to take pictures of us, because it was so out of their minds to imagine 2 people who use wheelchairs would be in a relationship together. I mean, most times they'll be like, "Oh, are you brother and sister?
Is that your dad?
Is that your?" Because sometimes she, depending on her hairstyle, she looks a lot younger than me. So is that your dad? Like, I'm like, "No, that's my girlfriend," and she's like, "Oh, and you're both in chairs," and I'm just like, yeah. It's like, oh, isn't that wonderful that you found each other? I mean, we came across each other and fell in love. We didn't, like, I feel like some people might look at us and think, oh yeah, they definitely found love in online disabled dating site or something. Those are the kind of assumptions I know people have. And unfortunately, TV and film is so important in our society that the reason they have that mentality is because they're not exposed to it. They're not shown it. All they've seen is a disabled person being looked after or being cried after or being so inspirational because they did whatever it was. I mean, that's not to say, I mean, let me not take away from people who genuinely are inspirational and genuinely do those things. But, just because I stood up for 2 seconds to pick up something off the top shelf doesn't make me inspirational. I'm just trying to get about my business,
Yeah, no, I think you make some really interesting points, and I get that. Upsettingly, I get the whole photo thing. I was once at a medical conference, and this guy came over and just posed for a photo with me, like crouched down next to my chair, and I was like, "Hi, who are you?" And I just kind of went, "Oh, you've just realised that there's a doctor in a wheelchair, and that's enough of a novelty that you want a photo. But you don't even feel the need to introduce yourself first."
That's
Yeah. In fact, I didn't even realize that, because it's not like they were like, "Oh, hi, my name is Brian, can I take a picture of you because I do this thing?" It's like, "Oh no, random person, this is something I've never seen, let me take a picture."
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, it's quite
Kels, can I bring you in a little bit here around, because I know when you were kind of like talking in preparation for this panel, that I think as a non-wheelchair user, you were quite surprised by some of the challenges that were faced and some of the issues that you kind of came across making this film in the context of disabilities. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, in some ways I wasn't surprised because my grandfather was disabled. Late in life, he got Guillain-Barré syndrome when he was 86, and he lived till he was 98, and I looked after him. And what I'd discovered with him, which I was talking to Ekow and Carly about the other day, was that you could see all of society's prejudice in him because he hated himself. And if I said, let's go to Chichester, we'll go to Pizza Express, and he'd be like, oh no, we can't do that, they won't want to look at me, now I'm in a wheelchair, I can't go out. So you could see how society had raised him, and of course he was from a older generation, but then he lived in the South Coast area, and somehow in London I expected it to be better, and I hadn't really expected to have the problems that I did with making the film, in that just trying to find somewhere where I had asked a local church if I could use their church hall as a place for Ekow and the rest of the cast and the makeup to hang out, where it would be warm, because we were filming in that supermarket, which wasn't that hospitable, although it did have a accessible toilet, so that was good. But they were like, oh no, you can't do that because you have to use that door, and we don't have a ramp and it's not suitable, and it's a brand new hall. And they were so rude to me, and I was like, I'm offering to pay you, and they were still really rude to me, and that kind of upset me hugely. And then to want to have a meal after we closed the shoot to celebrate, and I went through the local area around that supermarket and couldn't find a restaurant that had a disabled toilet, except one that had them downstairs. And I was like, unbelievable. And then ever since, we're going to festivals, and I say, oh well, Ekow would like to come, and they look at me like, oh well, we're showing it upstairs, and it's like, well, couldn't you find a way of not showing it upstairs in that art gallery so that he can come? It's sort of, but to have to fight for that is just shocking. And also, even when we were going to make the film, I got some money from a thing called Talkies Community Cinema near me, and they're brilliant. And when I had to pitch the idea, and they said, well, are you going to use a real wheelchair user? And I said, well, yes, of course, provided I can find the right actor. Yes, I am. That's my intention. Well, where are you going to do that? How are you going to find one? And I said, well, I've Googled the disabled actors, and there's an agency called Visable who specialize in disabled actors. And they're like, oh, the last person in here said there wasn't such a thing. And I was just like, wow, it didn't take any effort at all on my part, to be absolutely honest. All those things are so just unbelievable, and yet I know it happens, but it really shouldn't be like that. It just shouldn't. And it's the same thing of, as you're saying, that people are human beings who deserve to be able to go to the same places as everyone else and be treated that way. And like even recent screening that I did privately, did all the research, went to the hotel, said, disabled toilet working, blah, 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 wasn't actually big enough. I am ashamed to say I didn't really understand that the electric wheelchair would not be able to function in that space. But what on earth is a modern 5-star hotel making a disabled toilet that doesn't have the space? I mean, it's just insane. It really is.
I think it's fantastic that you found Visable, because I host a podcast with Athena Stevens, who's a playwright and actress and a wheelchair user, and she has cerebral palsy, and she's found that the only way she could get decent representation of disability was to go and write it herself. And she did a play down in London at a little theatre that's above a pub, and every single night she was like hauling herself up the stairs to get onto the stage to do this play, because it was the only venue in London that she could actually get for an affordable amount to put on this play about being a wheelchair user and having a wheelchair written by an airline company. And so these constant barriers that we come across, I don't think, you know, I've grown up with my mum in a wheelchair, it was something completely different. And I still didn't fully appreciate how rubbish our society was until I got in one myself, and I was like, oh no, that really is crap, isn't that? Yeah. Oh, drop curbs, like little things like that. And I think until you actually do that digging and you discover what a disabled toilet is to so many people, that accessible toilet if you can access stairs, like that's the situation that a lot of us find ourselves in so often. And I think, you know, we see a lot in the media of like that cripping up of sometimes it's just easier to get an actor and put them in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And that must be something that you and Carly come across a lot, I'm guessing.
You know what? Carly's been an actor for a lot longer than I have, so she can answer this.
It's just annoying because, like, obviously we can't do what they do 9 times out of 10. Like, we can run on a race course, but they can get in a chair, but that's not really fair, because how can we do what you do? Well, we can't, like, physically. And they just,
it's one of those ones. It's one of those ones where it's like, sometimes we'll get a job posting or an audition, and we'll do the audition, and when we don't get the job, it's fine, but all we hope is that they stay with a character with a disability, right? They stay, but 9 times out of 10 they don't. They always change it to just a random guy. I haven't come across a situation where I've gone up for an audition and they've replaced kept the character as a disabled character, but had an able-bodied person play them. I haven't come across that yet, but I'm sure it happens. I'm sure it happens all the time. Glee is one of the most
that annoyed me
epic examples of this, because I could not believe I genuinely thought he was in a wheelchair. And
I think everybody did.
Yeah, I think everyone did. So when that came out, I wasn't even a wheelchair user at this point. And it's interesting what you said earlier as well about the fact that your mum used a chair, but you still didn't understand. Because even though I wasn't using a chair, I had problems with my legs since I was 14 because of MS. It went undiagnosed for a long time. So I didn't even see myself as disabled. I remember struggling on certain days and thinking to myself, oh man, I wish I would have a wheelchair. I could have a wheelchair, and then banish the thought because I'm not disabled. I'm not at that point. Even one of my good friends, his older brother, he's a wheelchair user. And I've seen him stuck in the rain waiting for a bus, and the bus couldn't take him because there was too many prams or not enough space for whatever reason. And I've always thought to myself, oh man, that's so sad. Oh man, that's so hard. But that's where my thought process stops, right? But now I'm in a wheelchair, I'm like, oh wow. No, wait, he really couldn't get on the bus because of too many people standing there and had to stay in the rain. We've gone to restaurants and his brother will say, oh, we can't get in. It's like you get told it in like life, or you find it out in life, but you don't really understand it. It's just okay, that one occasion. And for you, especially if you're not around it 24/7, for you, it is that one occasion, not realizing that maybe you had to find a different place to go to eat. And then you finally found somewhere to eat. And then once you leave, you go to your home on a bus or a train or whatever, not realizing that they're going to have to go all around the houses because the train station near you is not accessible. I don't actually find myself being annoyed too much in situations where people have dropped the ball when it comes to accessibility. I really don't, because it's not normalized in society yet. If you went to a restaurant and went into the bathroom and realized there was no changing table for a baby, you'd be like, what is going on here? Like, obviously families come here, why would there not be a baby changing station? That same thought doesn't apply with disability. When people go into a shop or go into a restaurant, they're just like, yeah, we can use the bathroom. Everyone who we see here can use the bathroom, so it must be fine. Not realizing that maybe you don't see any disabled people in your restaurant because you don't have a disabled bathroom. Or there's a big step outside of your door. As a society, as a people, we go from the spectrum of being, unfortunately, patronizing to people with disabilities right down to being disrespectful. Like, we haven't gone past the patronizing part. we're trying right now in TV and in media. I know there's a massive push. Even Valuable 500, they're doing a massive campaign right now, but it's still a lot of work to be done. It's nowhere near normalized. It's nowhere near to the level where I can just get up and say to Carly, oh yeah, we're just gonna go to central London.
No.
Not even think about our plan, not even think about our route to get there, not even think about
arranging it
or arranging ramps or having to call up the restaurant or hotel whether or not they have access or suitable access. Most people don't even know what access is. So,
and I think that's a really big problem. I'm sorry, my internet is being really squidgy. We are seriously short on time. I think we've got 1 minute left, and I know Vanessa's going to swiftly sweep off into another event. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to possibly all day. But thank you for the film. I think it's honestly a really incredible piece of filmmaking, and it brought joy to my little disabled heart.
Thank you. I have to say I was close to tears hearing you talk about it earlier, and hearing Ekow talk about the film makes me really happy. So.
Yeah, it's an amazing film. It's one of my favorites ever. Like,
it's amazing.
Literally one of the best things I've ever done. The whole story, from the loneliness to her finding love and companionship in the most unlikely places. I really, really vibe with that whole story. It hits me right here.
Right, I think Vanessa is going to boot us out, but thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good to see you all. Bye.
Bye.